Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. So today we're going to continue our engine swap review series, this time reviewing the Nissan Silvia K's Aero S14 with its LT5 Corvette C7 engine swap to see realistically if it's any good. Retailing at around about 167,000 credits, this is a fairly cheap swap, but is it really worth your time? Well, that's what I'm here to do today to answer. So we have the car you're seeing here, the grey or silvery S14 Aero, which is going to be running our normal engine. As you can see here, a quick look at the tuning sheet. SR20 in this one. Obviously, as you can see, 216 brake horsepower, 1250 kilograms. Yeah, 470 pp. Not too bad. Bog standard, as you can see. If I just go through here, nothing is changed on this one. And then we have this one. This blue one here is going to be the standard version running the swap. Now I'm expecting this one to be a bit of a nightmare car to kind of take around a track. The LT5 Corvette engine from the C7 notoriously being a bit of a handful, and is actually one you can do in kind of the pre-facelift model as well. So again, we're going to do it on the Aero first. I'll talk about the pre-facelift model at a later date. So like I said, it's going to be the blue one that's going to take these swaps. So we'll go over and quickly have a look at the tuning sheet to see how it compares. So as you can see here, LT5 Corvette C7, 754 brake horsepower from standard, 612.74 pp, 1284 kilograms for this one. And as you can see, I'll just quickly scroll through, nothing else changed bar the engine. So let's go ahead and take them to the track. So we're going to lap them around Laguna Seca today, and we're going to have the SR20 version up first. So this is the bog standard version. As you can see, sports hard, come on the car by standard. Nothing else changed apart from literally nothing. The only changes you're going to see with the blue one as well is the fact that it has the LT5 swap in. Again, tyres will be exactly the same as standard. It will be running on the default brakes, default gearbox. So yeah, I'm pretty interested in seeing how that lap goes. So let's have a quick talk about the SR20 version. Bog standard in terms of when I reviewed it, I guess when the car released. Obviously it was changed up a little bit since the physics update. This was actually one of my favorite kind of, I guess, sporty mid-90s or kind of late 90s cars from GT7. In all honesty, it was a fantastic car to drive around the Nordschleife in its standard form, and to be honest, not much has changed here as we take it around Laguna Seca on a more recent physics update. It still feels great from standard. Is it absolutely perfect? No, of course it's not. It's running sports hard tyres. It's plenty enough grip realistically for the amount of power we're putting down, just over 200. Obviously a 2-litre turbocharged engine, the SR20. Overall, it feels pretty decent, really. Obviously it's not going to blow you away with top speed or, you know, cornering speed. Obviously we're on road tyres in a car putting out just over 200 brake horsepower and weighing, you know, fairly a bit over a ton, so 1200 kilogram. Not bad at all, really. I cannot complain about it. I cannot really say anything bad about it. It doesn't kind of shine at any certain thing, but then again, it's not really bad at anything either. Overall, a fairly decent car. Maybe a little bit pricey, you know, in terms of a kind of Silvia S14, but certainly the more striking looking model from standard. Now let's go ahead and talk about the LT5 swap as we begin to lap that one. Yeah, this thing. It's just absolutely ridiculous. To be quite honest, if I had to say, is there an engine swap that I recommend you need to tune, it would probably be this one. It's always kind of blown me away just how crazy this swap actually is. It really is just mental, really. There's no other way to talk about it. As soon as you kind of put the power down, it will spin its rear tires. It'll absolutely shift through the gears like no tomorrow. But that will bring me onto the kind of chat about this car. Realistically, this isn't an engine swap I'd use for a kind of track-based build, but I certainly would use it for a drift-based build. That is where this car excels. Overall, the chassis is fantastic. It drifts absolutely amazingly, and certainly once you've got this one set up for drifting, it becomes one of my favorite drift vehicles within GT7, hands down, especially with the LT5 swap-in. I actually prefer it with the swap-in than the standard SR20 for actually drifting this thing. It really does look good in kind of, you know, custom lobbies and public lobbies. You know, just drifting this Silvia sideways with the big, large, you know, wide body on it, the wing, you know, the sound of this thing. It really is a brutal sounding engine. But just the fact that it goes through the gears so quick, and you know, you can get into 5th gear pretty much maxing out almost instantly. It really does remind me kind of the BRZ drift car engine swap in something like the Silvia or the BRZ drift car itself. It really is a more drift focused engine swap in my honest opinion. It's certainly not one that you realistically want to use for kind of track racing. Certainly one for the more kind of tuner people in the chat. You know, if you want to have a custom JDM car with a swap that you can throw around sideways, then honestly you can do a lot worse than the Silvia with the LT5. So let's have a quick look at the time. So 612.74 pp on the sports hards for the engine swap version with a 137.847. Then we have the SR20 at 470.56 pp, again sports hards, 1 minute 45.012. Overall, realistically, there's not too much in it for the amount of power that, you know, the swap puts out over something like the standard SR20. It's not really too much of a time difference, and it was certainly a better drive with the SR20 standard version. But obviously that's not where it's going to end. We're going to have 2 more versions to come up. A fully upgraded SR20, which is going to be this one, the blue kind of drift livery. Absolutely fantastic looking machine. I really do love the customization on the S14 Aero. I think it looks fantastic. And then obviously we're going to have the LT5 swap again in a bit of a different livery so we can distinguish them from each other. So overall, the SR20, again, I'm expecting to be a more stable build. However, you know, there is the downside of it's just a bit of a lower power car. So if we have a quick look at the tuning sheet, 719.81 pp, 505 brake horsepower. This time it's just over 1,000 kilograms, only just, so at 1,025. Again, all upgrades installed. And this is going to be the one we're using for the LT5 swap. You may recognize this livery if you've kind of been around for the money guys way back in the day, or when this car released. This was the car I was running. I believe I also have this livery for my pre-facelift model as well. So again, in terms of the LT5, let's have a quick chat about it. Fully upgraded, again, it really does suit a full-blown drift build. There's certainly no real downside to it. It puts its power down well. The only thing is I cannot fine-tune these cars, which is a bit of a downside for me personally, because I can't kind of tune them to handle all of that power. So if you have a quick look at this sheet, 765.48 pp, 1,121 brake horsepower, weighing a little bit more at 1,059 kilograms. So on paper, the 1,000 brake horsepower car should absolutely destroy this SR20. So the SR20 model with all its upgrades is going to head onto its lap. We're going to use the Barcelona no chicane layout for this one. Same layout that I used for the Porsche RSR engine swap actually in the, I believe the GT3 RS. So overall, in terms of how this one felt, it felt a lot more planted than I expected it to. Obviously, the only downside is I can't fine-tune the suspension. I can't kind of fine-tune the different stuff. I have to just put all the parts on and then kind of leave it there, and then do the same with the swap version and kind of just leave it there. So, you know, we kind of get it as close as possible to each other. Still, there was tons of grip, but one thing to note in terms of going through the corners, it did feel rather unstable at times, only in certain speed corners. Through the slow corners it was fine, but certainly on the exits of some of the faster corners there was a little twitch at the rear, but this is to be kind of expected if you're not going to go into fine tuning. So I can't really fault the car in terms of being a you know, a kind of balanced time attack styled vehicle. This is really absolutely perfect for it. It really does feel like a full-blown time attack machine. Again, it's one of the most versatile cars. If you want a track build, a time attack build, or even a drift build, SR20, they're all possible. You know, with full upgrades, it's a fantastic machine, and I really cannot fault it. Again, in terms of its stability, it's there, apart from the little twitch out of the corners. In terms of its brakes and stuff, they are a lot better than I originally thought. Sometimes I was kind of braking a bit too early for the corners and realised the car was coming to a stop. So yeah, it did kind of catch me out with just how impressive this thing is. Anti-lag turned up, it sounds fantastic as well. I'd fully recommend taking this out at night with the anti-lag turned up. So that is the SR20 version with its lap done. Now let's get into the absolute monster, the LT5 Corvette C7 swapped Silvia. As you can see, this thing absolutely flies, topping out at 190 in 5th gear in no time. Through the corners though, this is where this car's a bit of a nightmare. Obviously, we have the same brakes that are on the SR20 one that we do have. So in terms of, you know, stopping and such, it's still very, very good. It's just mainly the brutal acceleration you get from that over 1000 brake horsepower. It really is a bit of a monster. It gets up to speed lightning fast. So definitely in terms of its acceleration, you're going to want to go for this one. But again, it just seems to kind of top out at very low kind of top speeds from what you'd expect from the power it's putting down, which means with a decent tune on it, you can get this thing to be a proper drift machine. And in terms of hanging the rear end out, obviously I'm trying to be as stable as possible kind of through these laps, not to kind of, you know, I guess impede the car's overall lap time. But if you really wanted to, you can hang this thing out at some insane speeds and create a ton of smoke clouds. It's absolutely fantastic to drift build, and that's where I fully recommend doing this engine swap. If you want something to kind of throw around sideways at stupid speed, in all honesty, put the LT5 in a Silvia and you really cannot go wrong. And that's the same with the pre-facelift version as well, which eventually I will get to kind of reviewing. It does feel a slight bit different, which again I think it's, you know, worth its own review, and as promised to you guys, I will test all of the reviews against their standard models to see how they go up against. But definitely for a track car, in all honesty, don't go for the LT5, go for the SR20. If you want a drift build and just a bit of a show-off car, certainly go for the LT5 swap. It's just an absolute blast to drive. So there we go, that is the lap time done for the LT5 swap. So let's go and have a look how they managed, and believe it or not, it's a lot closer than I originally imagined. So if we have a look at the PP, the 724.09 on the RS tyres is the SR20. It did lap quicker with a 145.055, and the menace that is the LT5 swap with 765.48 PP on the RS tyres did a 145.650. A lot more unstable, but that acceleration does allow it to launch out of corners at some ridiculous speeds. It's just the cornering that really kind of lets the car down, no matter what you do, or unless you really fine tune it. But it's definitely more of a drift car than the, you know, kind of SR20 standard model. You can get a proper time attack car going with that. So is the LT5 swap worth it? In all honesty, yeah, it's a fairly cheap swap. It's quite a common swap. I know a lot of people have these engines for free over the times on the roulette tickets, and maybe even especially from the roulette ticket glitch days, they'll probably have a few of these lying around, and I fully recommend just going for a full drift build. In all honesty, if I had to pick between the two, I'd go for the SR20 for the track, and certainly for a drift build or anything more showy-offy, the LT5 is going to be the car for you. And in my opinion, the chassis of the kind of, you know, Silvia S14 Aero, it's just a fantastic base car for both a time attack and a drift build. I really cannot fault it. So that's going to be it from me. Don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe, turn your notifications on so you don't miss an upload from me, and I will see you all in the next video. Big thank you to Poggers and the controller people for their continued support, as well as my channel members, my Discord, my Twitter, my donation link will be down in the description down below. I'll see you later on, guys. Peace.